What is good? Welcome to the original Gold Standard Podcast here on the Gold Standard Podcast Network. I'm Rob Stats Guerrera. He is Levin Black. Levin, it's Thursday. We are days away from the start of free agency. Are you excited?
I'll be excited when it gets here. I don't know what the heck they're going to do this year. Like, I was trying to prep for the show and thinking, okay, what do I think they'll do? It's what I was thinking about driving home this morning. And like, I have no idea. I could see them going any direction, making one big splash signing like last year.
Yep.
But then at what position? I have no clue. And I think the most likely scenario is that they don't do anything flashy. It's just not a whole bunch, like 2 to 3, like medium sized, somewhere in the $6 to $10 million a year range, where they kind of shore up some starting spots with guys that are good but not great.
And that doesn't necessarily make it a bad offseason, by the way, if that happens. But that's kind of the exciting thing. Like, to me, there's just as good a chance they do that as there is that they do make a good splash. Like, it's literally the kind of thing where any day you wake up could be the day where all of a sudden you look at your phone and bam, huge alert. 49ers sign, Danielle Hunter or whoever it might be. Like, it could happen. It very much could be one of those off seasons again.
Yeah, I'll be curious to see if they pursue the edge or if they just say basically, no, we've spent enough on defensive line. Because I feel like if they're going to concentrate on the defensive line again, we would see them pursuing some of the edges that might interest them. And that would tip you off that, if they pursue them and don't get them, okay, maybe they're going after somebody in the draft in the first or second round as a fallback. Clearly, the edge is the focal point. If they don't go after any of those guys, it tells me they're probably just going to wait out the market, sign some bargain guys, and try to plug and play like they've been doing. The Randy Gregory, the Cleveland Farrell.
Yep.
Blanking on his name there for a second, but I think that's probably what they end up doing at edge. That's what I hope they do. I don't want to spend money at edge.
Well, Michelle and I are going to get into some potential free agent targets tomorrow on the show, 9:15 a.m. Pacific.
Well, I don't care because that's tomorrow, and right now this is our time.
That's right. Don't say it like that. On this show, what we're going to do is we're going to look at the 49ers unrestricted free agents and decide who is in and who is out. Do you want to start on the offensive side of the ball or the defensive side of the ball?
I'll allow you to pick because I'm such a nice guy.
Yeah, okay. Since you're clearly unprepared for the show, I'll carry us today. That's fine.
I am prepared, but you can pick. I don't care if it's offense or defense.
So let's start with offense. There are multiple guys, free agents, but there's one guy, and I got to start with this because it's the one I'm the most fired up about, Levin. You know who it is. Go ahead. Tell the people who I'm going to bring up right off the bat for unrestricted.
I don't know.
Your friend and mine, Sam Darnold.
Oh,
because
okay.
I
didn't know if you were being sarcastic when you were approaching this, or if there
No.
really was like some guy that you were like, I really want that guy.
So just kind of a big picture view, the 49ers have 2 of their 3 quarterbacks are unrestricted free agents. Brandon Allen's a UFA, and so is Sam Darnold. And I've seen multiple 49ers beat writers say either they want Sam Darnold back or that they should bring Sam Darnold back. And I'm stunned by this because I don't know what you possibly could have seen from Sam Darnold in his limited time this year that makes you think, yeah, we need that guy back again.
Yeah, I don't like if he comes back dirt cheap, I'm not opposed to it, but I don't really think you need to pursue him at all. I saw some report that I don't think it was from a big national one, so take it for a grain of salt. But they said, who's the sneaky guy that could replace Kirk Cousins as the starter in Minnesota? And they said Sam Darnold. I'm like, there's no way a team is bringing in Sam Darnold to be the starter. Like, he already had kind of run out of options last year. And then the cup of tea that he got this year did not look good.
It's a cup of coffee. It's not a cup of tea.
No, a cup of coffee goes for the starter. He gets tea.
Oh, I see. I see what you did there. I don't get the Sam Darnold thing. I would be fine if they brought back Brandon Allen because I think he probably would want to come back, and I don't think he's going to cost that much. I like the Niners going with a veteran backup quarterback and then drafting another quarterback to be the 3 next year. But to me, it's Sam Darnold. No, Like, no. He's the same guy he always was. Everybody said he was going to get this huge bump, and he came to San Francisco, and what did he do? Fumbled the ball all the time, threw interceptions all the time. He's exactly the same player he always was. He had 2 nice passes in the preseason, and that's it. That's basically all he did. And we always do this with high quarterbacks. I did the same thing with Mitchell Trubisky when he was in Buffalo backing up Josh Allen, and it was like, oh, Mitchell Trubisky, yeah. Then he went to Pittsburgh, and guess what? He still sucks. Steelers might be getting another quarterback that sucks, by the way. Did you see the Steelers are going to meet with Russell Wilson?
Yeah. I don't think he sucks. He's just not as good as he was.
Michelle is not thrilled about that one. But back to the Niners.
No, my reaction to that, just real quick, was that his demeanor, the Russ shtick, could not be worse for the Pittsburgh market. Like, he does not fit this market. He will be absolutely despised because they cannot stand like fake crap in this market. Is a very, very steel mill, blue collar fan base. They're not going to put up with that crap.
Heineman on Twitch is trying to trigger me. Which is worse, Darnold at 10 million or Juice at 7 million? Neither of them should be on the roster next year.
There's an easy answer to that. I would rather spend whatever amount of money on somebody who would actually see the field.
Right. Kali Young says Greg Papa loves Sam Darnold. Waltony 101 says, can you find elite end game kneeling in the free agency market? Look, I know, I get it. You know, you hope that the backup quarterback never plays. Brock was tremendous this year, staying healthy enough to play every single game. But even with Brock's season this year, that's still only 2 healthy quarterback seasons since I think 2014 for the 49ers. So you still, you can't just totally throw away the backup quarterback position. I'm just stunned that Niners beat writers are saying, bring Sam Darnold back. Like, I don't know who this guy has pictures of. I don't get it.
I will throw away the backup quarterback because this is the way I look at it. If you're having to go to your backup quarterback, you're not winning the Super Bowl anyways. Like, Philadelphia is a 1-of-1 situation. You know what I mean? Like, to me, and I said this, a month ago, I would rather draft a guy in like the 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th round, somewhere in the draft that you think has potential, allow him to be the backup. And if something happens to Purdy, you have a guy that could come in and actually be good. He might fall on his face. But if you go sign some veteran who's not good enough to get a starting job, he's going to fall on his face anyways, like Sam Darnold did in the final game of the regular season. So I'd rather have the young guy who could come in and be somebody that actually developed into a starter quality, because guess what? Then you can get a bunch of draft capital back for him. You can get a 2nd round pick like Jimmy Garoppolo or something along those lines if he shows potential. Or worst case scenario, Brock Purdy has a serious injury and you have to go to this guy and he turns out to be a starter. And then you can sit and say, all right, if Purdy can come back, great. If he can't come back, we're still set. Like, that's where I'm at. I would rather have the young, unproven guy as the backup if you have a proven starter already.
I would certainly rather have a guy that maybe has a little unknown versus a guy that I know stinks. And that to me is Sam Darnold. That's why I didn't want him as the backup this year. That's why I don't want him back next year. Let's move off the quarterbacks. And if you just like, if it's an easy decision, we don't need to dive into every single one of these people. How about Ray McLeod?
He's somebody that I'm okay with him being on the team. I'm not wanting to spend money on him. If he comes back for barely over vet, like if you can get him for, I would say like $3 million a year. Okay. Because he does come in, he can play wide receiver. He's somewhat decent, and he was trustworthy in the return game, which was surprising to me because he had fumble issues in Pittsburgh, but we haven't really seen it the last 2 years. So if you can get him cheap, I'm okay with it, but I would rather not go that way. But at the same time, I'm fearful because we know we had a decade of it where it was, hey, we can't find anybody that can do anything in the punt return or kickoff return game. So that's I don't want to return to the, oh God, like I don't have that feeling when the other team is punting.
I do.
And I don't.
Oh, I definitely do. And after what he did in the Super Bowl and his comments afterwards about how I'm a playmaker, so I try to pick the ball, get the hell out of here, Ray McLeod. Do you know, Levin, I came across this stat. The 49ers have only had one punt return for a touchdown since 2011. It was Ted Ginn in 2011. They haven't had one since. They haven't had a punt return touchdown in 13 years. We can do better than Ray McCloud. Deontay Hardy is an all-pro returner that just got cut from the Bills because the Bills are cutting everybody. And he's there on the open market. Forget Ray McCloud. Ray McCloud thinks he's way better than he is. No hard pass on Ray McCloud. They've only also, by the way, the Niners have had 2 kick returns for touchdowns since 2011. Ted Ginn had one in the same game that he had the punt return in against Seattle. And then Richie James had a kick return touchdown in 2018. And that is it in the last 13 years. I don't know how the 49ers have had nothing for a returner for this long, but, it could be a big boost, Levin. If they had a returner, maybe not on the kick return now because they're trying to phase it out, although now they're coming up with this weird ass rule possibly. So who knows? But like punt returns, if you got a guy like Deontay Hardy last year averaged more than 12 yards per return, imagine the 49ers offense getting that extra boost in field position every time they got the ball. Like that could be a nice little thing to have in their pocket. And there's good options out there.
Look, the game has changed and they did it deliberately because of concussions. The wedge no longer exists. So to me, I don't bother wasting resources in the return game. That's why I said if Ray wants to come back barely more than vet minimum, I'm okay with it. But I don't want to invest money into it. I would be okay with a team strategy of we're going to never return a kickoff if it's in the end zone.
Yes.
And we're going to fair catch every single punt unless for some reason the other team decides to hold everybody back and there's 30 yards of daylight in front of you. I don't want to see the run game. There's only risk there. They've changed the rules to where it's really, really, really hard to create blocking so that you can actually return the ball and have daylight, to the point that it's, to me, not worth the risk of a fumble. Because I think that that's the highest probability of a fumble happening is on a punt return.
Mm-hmm. And we know how Kyle feels about it. Just hold on to the ball and get down so that my offense can get back on the field. He's basically said as much. So I would not want to see Ray McCloud back with the 49ers. We did get a super chat from the Big 25 who says the word is that the Niners are looking to get DJ Jones in a trade from the Denver Broncos, who have been cutting people left, right, and center. And I believe that the report you're going off of comes from 49ers and NFL News 24/7 that said the Niners have reached out to Denver about DJ Jones. He's likely going to get cut in a salary dumping move. So if the Niners can get him, maybe you trade a late round pick. Obviously, we know he was drafted by the 49ers, was very good for the Niners before he went to Denver. Would you want DJ Jones back, Levin?
Not in a trade. And that's not because they have to give up like, a 7th round pick or anything. To me, I'll just be honest. This site, they throw out a lot of stuff to see what sticks to the wall. This, to me, seems like an engagement ploy because it makes no sense. DJ Jones, if you're acquiring him, the amount the 49ers would be responsible for is his salary. Well, his almost the entire remaining value of his contract is salary. If the Niners traded for him, he would have a 9.49 salary cap hit. There's no effing way they're paying DJ Jones that. He's not been bad in Denver, but he's not been worth the money they spent. That's why they're willing to move on from him, because they can save about $7 million of cap space by moving on from him. And the Niners didn't want to pay him $10 million. That's what he got. He got a 3-year, $30 million contract. So when he was 3 years ago, younger, better than he's been the last 3 years, they didn't want to pay him $10 million a year. Now they're going to trade a draft pick to pay him $9.5 million in a single season. It makes no sense.
What if you can get Denver to pick up some of the money by using a higher draft pick?
I wouldn't want to use a higher draft pick unless you're talking like a 6th round. I'm not trading 5th anything for DJ Jones, even if they pick up, half of that remaining. To me, if DJ Jones is released, he's going to want to come back here. This is where he had the most success. He's still talked about by some of the players that were around. He's been gone since 2021. To me, if he's released, then go sign him for like 3 years, $15 million. because I don't think he's getting a ton of money in free agency. So that's where I'm at with DJ Jones. I don't need to trade for him. Like, let him hit the open market and let him come back on his own accord. I don't need to trade for an expensive contract. And even if Denver picks up a lot of it, you're trading draft capital for a single year of a player that's been good, but nothing special.
There are a lot of former 49er names swirling around the team that a lot of people want to bring back. And I think that I think our view of that, or some people's view of that, might be biased because their memories of that player are from years ago when they were in San Francisco. But it's not years ago. Time has gone by. Players have gotten older. DJ Jones is still only 29 years old. It's not like he's an old man. But, I think we can't look at these guys the same way. Perfect example. Josina Anderson tweeted, I think today or yesterday, oh, the 49ers are one of the 5 good destinations for Odell Beckham Jr. I don't want Odell Beckham Jr. The guy hasn't had a 1,000-yard season since 2019. He's had a 100-yard game since 2019. But you hear the name Odell Beckham Jr., you're like, ooh, OBJ. Yeah, it's like, no, we're not getting New York Giants Odell Beckham Jr. So I think sometimes we have to keep that in mind.
Yeah, so let's go through them. Lake and Tomlinson. I wouldn't want him back at all because you're not going to have him as a starter. And I don't think he's good enough anymore. I think he's fallen off. And I just don't care to have him back. I don't think he's going to be willing to be a backup either. Emmanuel Mosley. Now he's one I would bring back if it's dirt cheap. I'm not paying him any money. The guy can't stay healthy. But if he wants to come back.
I think he's going back to Detroit again.
Is he? I saw a report a week ago that there was mutual interest in Emmanuel Mosley coming back to the 49ers, but maybe things have changed.
No, they re-signed him.
Did they?
Yeah, 1-year deal.
I had not seen that. Huh. So never mind on that one then. But this is where I fall. When those guys were here, the Niners weren't good enough. So how is it going to change when you bring back the older version of that player? Move on. Try something different. They're already going to keep damn near this entire core together, in my opinion. So you don't need to add former core pieces back into it that didn't work out the first time.
I agree. Don't get caught up in the name. Look at the game. I think a lot of these names will kind of fall off the board, although there are a couple that I do, at least one that I would bring back, but we'll get to that later.
Did you just come up with that or what? Because that's a good philosophy.
No,
don't get caught up in the name. Look at the game.
This is not my first rodeo. I'm kind of good at this broadcasting thing.
I didn't know if you stole it from, say Mike Florio or somebody like that.
I did not come up with that. It's a very common
I've not heard that one.
Okay. So let's keep going. Let's look at some offensive linemen now. We'll lump them all together. John Feliciano, Ben Barch, Matt Pryor. Any of those unrestricted free agents you want the Niners to bring back?
I'm fine bringing back Feliciano. I'm not going to bring him back and hand him the keys to the right guard spot. I think he was certainly the best option this past year, and I don't think he's going to get a big contract. He's probably going to get damn near the vet minimum, if not the vet minimum. I'm okay bringing him back on, a 1-year, $2 million deal. Give him an extra $500,000 from the vet minimum. I'm okay with that. The other ones, no.
I agree, and I don't think the market for John Feliciano is going to be like crazy. I agree with you. Get him on the roster. He's a solid player. I would love it if he was a backup. I wouldn't love it if he was the starter, although I guess I could live with it. So yeah. I agree. I think there's a spot for him on the team. All right. Tight end, Ross Dwelly and or Charlie Warner.
If their name is not Kittle, there has not been a tight end on this team in a decade that I care to keep. So.
I completely agree. Charlie Warner keeps signing like 1-year deal. Like, just let him go. Let him go. You drafted 2 tight ends last year, Braden Willis and Cam Latu. I don't know if they can play. It looks like no, but let's find out. Get rid of.
How is a team that drafted George Kittle this freaking bad at drafting somebody that's just good enough to be the backup?
I agree. It doesn't make sense.
What have they spent? They've spent what? I think 4 draft picks trying to find a decent complement to Kittle, and they've struck out on all of them. None of them have been worthwhile backups. Like, How can you be this bad? Just go out there. This is what drives me nuts. I think they look at the blocking aspect of it and they go, well, we want somebody who can block well. So then when Kittle goes off the field, we're not taking a huge hit there, and then hope that they can develop into a pass catcher. And to me, it's you go draft the crazy athlete and teach him how to block. And as long as he's passable in the blocking game, his passing game aspect, because he's an athletic freak, has to be accounted for. That's what you did when you drafted Kittle. You said, hey, here's a freak of an athlete who didn't get any opportunity to be a pass catcher. We think that he can be a good pass catcher. And that's what they went out and did. They drafted the athlete. And he ended up being, not a Hall of Fame. He's not going to make the Hall of Fame. He doesn't have the numbers, in my opinion. But, an all pro pretty much every year. So go do that. Stop taking these guys that are limited physically and going, well, we hope that they can develop into a passing game threat.
It's kind of surprising that they have struggled this badly to find a Kittle complement. I forgot about the Caden Smith pick in the 6th round of 2019. Of course, Charlie Warner was 2020, and we got the double tight ends last year. You would like to think that they could find somebody, but I know what Charlie Warner is, and I know what Ross Dwelley is. No, thank you. Like you can easily get someone in the draft or sign a free agent for not a lot of money that's just as good. So I'm totally fine with that. Let's see. That is all the offense. Oh, Chris Conley. My bad. Sorry, Chris Conley. No disrespect. Wide receiver. Any interest?
No, he can get a roster invite and see if he earns a spot. That's pretty much what he's been.
Yeah.
I'm not elevating him by giving him a contract.
There's Chris Conleys that are going to be available this year that you can sign right before training camp if you want.
There's Chris Conleys available in week 10 of the regular season.
Exactly. So, yeah, I agree. Nothing against him. I'm not saying he was a disappointment in any way. It's just, no, they're utterly replaceable. Now, let's go to the other side of the ball, Levin. Defensive free agents. This, I think, is a little more interesting because this is where a lot of the bigger names are. First up, Tashaun Gibson.
It feels like he's been really good. Like way outperformed his contract. But at the same time, I don't think he's going to be willing to be a backup. And I think it's time to pull off the Band-Aid when it comes to that safety position. That's kind of what he's been. To me, Tashaun Gibson, you look at the market, and this is where I think he gets screwed a little bit. This safety free agent market is the best it's ever been. So why go pay him right now? If you go into free agency and none of these vets, I don't think they're going to spend money at safety, but I think that there might be a couple that if they don't get the market they anticipated, the Niners might kick the tire on like a 1-year, $5 million deal, or something along those lines on some of these younger safeties that have more upside. But let Tashaun Gibson go into that market. If he doesn't find anything, he's either going to retire, as you have up on the screen, or he'll come back for like a vet minimum 1-year deal. At that point, I'm okay with it. At this point, I'm not okay with doing that. If Tashaun Gibson said, hey, I'll sign for a 1-year, $2 million deal right now, I would say, cool, we'll talk to you in June.
The safety market is ridiculous right now. Justin Simmons is a free agent. Eddie Jackson's a free agent. Kevin Byard's a free agent. Jamal Adams is a free agent. Jordan Poyer's a free agent. What do those guys all have in common? They've all been all pros at some point in the past. If you need a safety, you can go and get a good safety. I'd like to see the Niners roll with Hufanga and Jair Brown next year. If Gibson wants to come and be a backup, I'm fine with it. But if he says I'm either starting or I'm retiring, then you say, thank you for everything. You've been a tremendous player for us for the past 2 years. Do you know Grant Cohn said this on Wednesday? It blew my mind. Tashaun Gibson has more career picks than Ed Reed.
No way.
He does. I looked it up. It's ridiculous. Like, he has been a really good player, just a solid player. The Niners had a real need at safety that they really didn't have any answers for, which is why they signed him, and he has been awesome for them. He had a huge strip against the Lions in the NFC Championship game that kind of led to the Niners game-tying score there in the third quarter. Great player, but I agree. There's a lot of guys that fall into the R price or no price at all category, and I think Deshaun Gibson is one of them.
I'm going to test you here. What is I'm trying to think of the best way to put this. There's a player in terms of an older player brought in who had an amazing career at the 49ers in a very short span right at the end of their career at that position. Do you know who I'm thinking of from the 2000s?
From the 2000s? And they didn't start their career with the 49ers?
No, they just played the last few years, and they kind of had a career renaissance for a year or two.
I know Rod Woodson was there, but I think he was still playing corner for the Niners. I don't think he was a safety.
Woodson was in the 90s anyways.
Okay. All right. Now, who is it?
Tony Parrish.
Yes, Tony Parrish played for the Bears for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Solid.
He came in, and I think he had a Pro Bowl year his first year with the Niners. He had like 6 picks or something like that. Mm-hmm. That's what Gibson's always reminded me of. It's time to move on. They moved on from Parrish because, he was brought in as this aging vet. Hey, he's a good vet presence. Oh, crap, we need him. Oh, wow, he did well. That's kind of that's the timeline that Gibson had.
A lot of people in the chat saying Dante Whitner, too. Dante Whitner had a nice couple of years in San Francisco. I will never forget him literally knocking out, I want to say it was Pierre Thomas on the Saints in 2011, right as he was going into the end zone. Like, Hittner hits him, and he's literally out before he hits the ground. It was unbelievable. That guy used to just smash people. All right. Let's get to some of the defensive linemen. This is the juicy part, Levin, because you've got Cleveland Farrell, you've got Javon Kinlaw, you've got Chase Young, you've got Kevin Gibbons, you've got Randy Gregory, and you've got Sebastian Joseph Day. Anybody in that group? Let's start with Kinlaw, actually. What do you do with Javon Kinlaw?
Go find your money. If you don't, we'll bring you back. That's the scenario. If he can go out and find, somebody that's willing to go, sign him for the potential that he showed at the end of the year and give him, I'm just throwing numbers out here, but say like a $2 million or 2 year, $16 million deal. Good for you. But if there's no market for him, all right, we'll bring you back. We'll give you, a 1 year, $2.5 million deal, a 2 year, $6 million deal, something along those lines. There is a point to which I would bring Kinlaw back, is the point. It's just I'm not offering him anything before free agency.
Fish and Chip says Kinlaw goes. He's pushed around at the point of contact too much. He had a 70.3 grade against the pass last season, 31 pressures, 25 hurries for Kinlaw. But I also think it's very possible that this was the best, healthiest season that you'll ever get out of Javon Kinlaw. He may go back to his injured ways next year.
Right.
Yeah, I agree with you. Like, if you want to come back on a cheap deal, if you've got no other options, great. But I feel bad because we keep saying this with everybody, and like, you need people to fill the roster. But I don't think the person you would sign to replace Javon Kinlaw or draft to replace Javon Kinlaw would be that much worse than him. And they're definitely going to be cheaper.
Yeah, the ironic part here is the Niners have done an excellent job, better than any other team, of going out there and finding former highly touted players that failed in their first stop, and then getting them in on next to nothing and having them become a good part of the defensive line. Not necessarily a starter in some cases, but like good players that played a good bit of the snaps and then went on and actually got a decent contract after. And Minahu, you got the Hurst, you got Cleveland Farrell this past year did well. You have a lot of guys that they've done that with. There's 5 or 6 guys that have done that with. The ironic part is that's Kinlaw's profile this year. A guy that couldn't stay healthy, but showed promise when he actually was healthy, which was basically like 5 games of his career, but you could get him for next to nothing.
Great 1765 says, let them all go. You're right, though. The benefit of Chris Kasarik is that you're supposed to be able to turn guys that didn't do much elsewhere into solid contributors with you. So why would you then pay guys? Like, that's like Michelle always bangs on Kyle Shanahan. Like, the whole thing with the Shanahan system is that you can find any running back to come in and play well, and yet the Niners keep investing all these resources into the running back position, which is funny and true, by the way. So hopefully the Niners don't do that. I wouldn't The one guy I would maybe make a little bit more of an effort to keep is Cleveland Farrell. I thought Cleveland Farrell, the run defense, took a big hit when he went down in week 18 against the Rams. Not to say that like he's an all-world run stopper, but I think his effort, I'll never forget what they said about him when they looked, it was like he ran more in terms of distance on the field than some of the skill position players. That is an effort. That is an all-out guy on the defensive line. I think that kind of thing is contagious. So I wouldn't mind if they did bring back Cleveland Farrell, not expecting him to be, the third overall pick, Cleveland Farrell, but just a really solid player.
There's 3 guys amongst that list that I'm okay bringing back if it's for next to nothing. Cleveland Farrell's one, Javon Kinlaw is one, and Randy Gregory is the other one. All of those, I'm waiting out to market unless for some reason they're willing to sign for $2 to $3 million a year now. I don't think any of the 3 are. Other than maybe I could see Farrell doing it because he's coming off injury, so he might not have a market out there. But none of them I'm willing to pay. It's just those 3 guys I'm willing to bring back if they're cheap.
Chase Young was not in that list. You don't want Chase Young back, even if it's cheap.
I don't include him because somebody will pay him. He's shown flashes enough as on his rookie deal that somebody will pay him, probably an incentive-laden deal where he's getting $5-6 million a year in a salary and can earn as much as $15 million on incentives based on sacks and stuff like that. I don't think there's any way Chase Young comes back or has a market where all he can get is $3-4 million a year. So I don't include him on that list because somebody's paying him.
Man, I'm glad it's not going to be the 49ers.
Don't count your chickens before they're hatched, bud.
Yeah, I hope not. I mean, look, I was excited. I think it was worth trying. It was worth a flyer. You gave up a 3rd-round comp pick to get him, and you needed a shot in the arm at that position at the pass rush spot. Like I was all for the 49ers trying it. Absolutely. Yep. But also now I think we have enough data to say it didn't work out the way we were hoping. It wasn't like
it's not just results. It's the effort. I'm sorry, you come to a Super Bowl contender and you have effort issues in the playoffs, get the hell off this team.
In a contract year.
Yeah.
Yep, I agree with you. Man, we agree on most of these. I think you and I, are we like more ruthless than the 49ers when it comes to these decisions? Or do you think we look at it like they look at it?
I think we probably look at it along the lines they look at it. Now, if you're talking the entire roster and not just these, bargain guys that weren't really starters or, part-time guys, I think we're aligned with the 49ers. If you look at the top of the roster, we're definitely more ruthless.
Yeah, I agree.
Their stars they're attached to. Their stars they have conflict of interest with because Kyle Shanahan became buddy-buddy with them.
Mm-hmm. The Cabo click. We all know it. Beats and Meats, thanks for the super chat, says, I thought the Niners were like 30 million under the cap last year and it would roll over to this year. What did I miss? Nothing. You are correct. It did roll over. The Niners have the highest adjusted cap number in the NFL. I think it's like $296 million, I want to say off the top of my head. So you didn't miss anything, Beats and Meats, but thanks for the $5.
Yeah, it still just means that they don't have a lot of cap space. There's a lot of guys that had their contracts bump up in terms of the amount it's going to cost this year to keep them. So they have the most adjusted cap space, but they also, I guess I don't know that for sure, but my guess is they also have the most like money accounted for in the salary cap already in terms of the amount guys are going to be there that they can't really get out of without massive cap hits.
Right. Like the way they structure their deals, the money didn't hit the cap until future years. And guess what? Future years are a coming. Deebo Samuel is one. Trent Williams' number is about to go way up too, I believe. So, you have to obviously account for all of that when you get into this. I didn't mention Logan Ryan was the other safety. I should have mentioned him with Tashawn Gibson. He may retire too because he was retired when they brought him in.
He can go back to the Cruise. You can find. It's nothing against him. I think he did admirably. I cannot speak today. He did well enough for what you were getting. You're signing a guy at the end of the season who's literally on a cruise boat when you're contacting him. So, I don't blame him, but you can go find anybody to play at that level. at
I
any
agree.
time.
Especially like we just talked about with the safeties, like maybe one of those guys gets left out in the cold. Ian Rappaport, what did he just tweet? Anything relevant to the 49ers? No.
Probably not.
John O. Smith signed with the Dolphins. Yippee. Sorry, I just flashed on my phone, so I wanted to make sure I didn't miss anything. Linebackers, Demetrius Flanagan Foles, Oren Burks. Any desired?
No.
I mean, you do have a need at linebacker because Greenlaw is hurt.
None of them are good enough. And I really like the young crop we have behind them, the guys that we brought in that had a lot of athleticism. I wouldn't be opposed to bringing in somebody like Aziz. I wouldn't be opposed to drafting somebody in, the third, fourth, fifth rounds to try to see what they have. But I do like the young crop that they have behind those guys. So I let them walk.
I would agree. I would love to see Aziz. The only thing is, like, Oren Burks plays on special teams. Aziz is not playing on special teams if you sign him, but you still have D Winners and Jalen Graham, so you can play those guys on special teams.
Here's the thing about playing on special teams. I don't want them ever kicking the ball in a scenario where it gets returned, so I don't care.
Right. Well, they still have to do punt returns, but yeah, I see your point. Like, I agree. This is another spot, though, just like the tight ends, right? You drafted 2 at this position. So you should have been able to find somebody that can at least contribute at that level with one of those picks, even if you just go 1 for 2. You don't even have to nail both of the picks. Just nail half the picks and not even nail. Just get something out of them. So I agree. You let Oren Burks go. You let Demetrius Flanagan Foles go. You see what you have in the young guys. I would definitely hit up Aziz Al-Shire and see if he... Problem is, I think a lot of people are going to be hitting up Aziz Al-Shire. So his market could price himself out. I'm hoping that he wants to come back. When I saw him in the huddle, the pregame huddle in the playoffs with the other linebackers, I was like, damn, maybe he just misses being in San Francisco. And so maybe that's, maybe the offers are relatively the same and he takes a few million less to come back. I don't know, but it's worth a phone call.
Yeah, it's certainly possible that he does that. I like I said, I'm not opposed to it. I do worry about what Greenlaw will be, but we've already had that conversation. Like, yeah, Greenlaw might make it back some point early in the season. He's not going to be himself, but you have to play him. He has to. That's an injury you have to play into form with. So it's you don't go out and spend a bunch of money on a guy when you're going to have to play Greenlaw anyways.
Fair, although you're going to need 3. Like, give me back the Fred Warner, Dre Greenlaw, Aziz Al-Shire trio. And Aziz is only 26. It's not like we were talking about some of these other former 49ers that have been off the team for a long time. Like, no, he's not an old man. He's 26 years old. He was really good last year for Tennessee. But again, I think a lot of people are going to be interested in Aziz Al-Shire. There's actually another free agent linebacker that has experience in the system that the 49ers run that I would like to see them sign. But I'm not going to tell you who it is, Lev. I'm going to save it for tomorrow's show with Michelle. So that's a reason to listen to that.
So is it because he's on the Steelers?
No.
So it's not Quan.
God, no. Quan Alexander's always hurt. He's coming off of an Achilles, I think, himself, actually. He just did it early in the year. Antonio says, I would like to see them sign Michael Owenu from New England. I think that's how you say his last name. That's the guy. That's the offensive lineman that a lot of 49ers content creators and 49ers Twitter wants to see them sign. I would be fine with it. My whole thing is address one of the needs in free agency in some way, because then I think that gives you maximum flexibility for your first round pick.
So let me ask you, what would you address? And do you think they address anything? Do you see a big splash signing?
A splash signing? No, but I think you can address one of these needs without making a splash signing. I don't know that you have to go absolutely crazy, but I think they will address something. Whether it's corner, whether it's offensive line. I don't think they're going to go defensive line because I think that would be more of like if you signed to Neil Hunter, like you're going to have to pay him a lot of money. He had a great year last year. I don't know that they're going to do that, but I don't think they're going to go into the draft being like, well, we need everything.
Yeah. What do you prefer? Do you want them to go out and find the guard? Find a right guard in free agency. Do you want them to go out and sign one of the big name cornerbacks to shore up that? What do you want to see?
This is going to sound like a cop out, but at least let me explain my thinking. It
You're gonna
depends
wet
on
blanket me.
no, it depends on how they view the draft. If they, because I want them to move up in the first round and grab somebody. Like, don't just sit at 31 and see who falls to you. Go get the person you want. So whether it's a corner or a defensive lineman or an offensive lineman, move up and grab that person. So if you think that the best talent that you're going to be able to get is that offensive line, then I want you to address corner or address defensive line in free agency, right? Like, whoever you think the best guy is, go get that person in the draft. And then with that thinking in mind, that's how you approach free agency.
Yeah, see, I fall in a different. I mean, we're basically trying to predict what happens in the draft, but what my philosophy going into the draft would be is I want one of those tackles, right? I think one of them will fall to 31. So I don't think you have to go get them.
It's possible.
And now, like you said, it depends on how you rate them. It might, you're getting a little bit out of my depth. You know, some of those guys might not fit this system well. And the Niners are going to know that a lot better than I will. So it might be there's only 3 guys on their list that actually would fit this system well at right tackle. There might be all 6 of them. But I think one of the guys will probably be there at 31. I would rather see them move up in the second round to come up and get one of the, guards or centers or one of the cornerbacks that fall that had a first round grade. That's what I would rather see. I want to see them stay at 31, get a tackle, and then move up in the second round to come up and get another day 1 starter.
A second round move up. Interesting. And maybe they do that. That's kind of one of the benefits of splitting the draft up into multiple days. A lot of the NFL teams actually like it because you have that first round and then everybody gets, 12 hours, whatever it is, to kind of take a breath, examine the board, see who's out there, call around, see the rumors that they're hearing, and then you get to see who moves up. I also think there's a decent chance the Niners trade down. If guys start falling, I could see a team trading back into the end of that first round because they want the extra year on the deal. You want to get the 5th year option, right? If you draft somebody in the first round, you get that 5th year option. And if the Niners say, hey, there's 5 guys at 31 that we'd be good with taking, and we can move down, 4 spots and get extra picks, maybe they do that. I don't know. Everything is on the table. That's the crazy exciting thing for the 49ers. Like, you could viably sell me on a plan, any kind of plan, big splash plan, lots of draft picks plan, trade up a bunch of picks and move way up. Like, you could sell me on all of that. I think it's all believable.
So at what point in the draft do you start to get excited? Because I'm assuming you watch the draft in a similar way to what I watch it, where when the Niners aren't anywhere close, you're paying attention, but you're not like on the edge of your seat, listening to every last word, But when the Niners start to get close, you're like, all right, they could trade up at any moment. I'm going to be really dialed in. At what point in that draft do you hit that mode where you go, all right, the Niners could be moving up at any time?
10, I think. I don't think that
hell no. There's no way they can move. You know how much draft capital they would have to move to go from 31 to 10? There's no way.
It's after 10, like the top 10 picks, I don't think there's a chance they move up to. After 10 is when I'm like, it could happen here. Could be 11, could be 15, could be anything in there.
For them to get into the top 20, they would have to give up next year's first. I have no interest.
I would. Absolutely, no. I would. If you told me
to go from 31 to 20, no. I'm not willing to give up next year's first to move up.
Why? I think teams way overvalue first round picks. I was fine with them giving up 3 first round picks to get Trey Lance. I think
teams overvalue moving up in the first round. If I was a team drafting in the top 5, unless like an all-world quarterback fell into your lap, I'm not talking about a project. I'm talking about like a true, like, wow, this guy is as good as any prospect of the last 10 years. Guy falls in your lap at number 2 or something. I would be moving back every year because the amount teams spend to move up a handful of spots in that top half of the first round is absolutely insane.
I agree that, like, we don't think about the fact that half the first round picks are going to be terrible. Like, half of them are going to be terrible. You know, everybody always says this draft teams usually have like 20 to maybe 25 guys with a first round grade. Yet there's 31 or 32 picks in the first round. So teams are going to pick guys in the first round that they don't necessarily think have first round grades. But I also think that I don't like the universal praise people get for trading down. If you trade and get more picks, people are always like, oh, great job. It's like, no, not necessarily. The value of a draft pick is really weird. On the one hand, they can be precious, but on the other hand, they can be utterly worthless, right? Danny Gray, third round pick has value. If I tell you that third round pick is Danny Gray, you're like, oh, forget it. So once you put a name to it, it changes the value.
But so I look at it, we're looking at the same thing, but we go two different ways with the way we look at it. Yes, the draft is a crapshoot. All the more reason, in my opinion, to go, I don't care how much I love this player. We have a decent shot at being wrong. So I'm going to trade down and get more cookies in the cookie jar. More times I can put my hand in and see what I come out with in the higher part of the draft, because I'm not infallible. Nobody is. Every team misses as much, if not more often than they do in the first round. So I'm not going to fall in love with a singular player and say I must have that player. I'm going to take more shots at it because I know I'm going to miss half of them.
I think it all depends on the player, right? Like if the Niners had to trade up to get Nick Bosa, I'd be like, fantastic, go for it, right? Like there are some players that are
one
different.
Of those once in a 10-year, like that's a guy that you knew Stone Cold Lock is going to be dominant, because it wasn't just what he did on tape and film in college. You had the family aspect to add credibility to this guy is going to know exactly what to do coming in.
A lot of people said that same thing about Trevor Lawrence, and yet he stinks.
Yes, part of that is the situation he's in. Part of that is I was not big on Trevor Lawrence.
You weren't, but a lot of people were calling him like generational can't miss guy.
Yeah, no. I was out on him. I said in that draft that if I had the first pick, I'd be trading out of that first pick because I don't think he's worth it. So I don't fall. Trevor Lawrence was not an Andrew Luck, which is where people tried to put him.
Right. I completely agree.
Andrew Luck is like one of probably 5 or 6 prospects of the last since like the year 2000 that I would have stayed at 1 to take.
A lot of people are saying Bobby Wagner in the chat. I don't even know. Is Bobby Wagner a free agent? I don't even know. But also, like, I don't think
he is. But I mean, I would be all for it if he wants to come for cheap. But him and Warner do the same things. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't really work. You know what I mean? Like, could they pair together? Yeah. If Bobby Wagner's willing to take a backseat, I don't sense that he's willing to. It would be interesting because obviously they have the in where KJ Wright is now a Niners coach. So I would assume KJ Wright will at least be chit-chatting with Bobby Wagner saying, hey, try to win another Super Bowl before it's over.
How weird would it be if both Bobby Wagner and Richard Sherman ended up playing for the 49ers? Like, dude, those are the guys that killed us.
I would love it because like, so Niner fans are, we all enjoy Richard Sherman. We all still call him Uncle Sherman, things like that. It's the Seahawks fans that are tortured by it. That, dang it, the guy that was the biggest villain for them is now beloved by them, and we have to share him. You know what I mean? That bothers Seattle's fan base. It doesn't really bother our fan base, so I'm all for it.
No, I feel like Sherman's like a Niner now. Like he's wearing Niner hats and stuff. Like, I don't know. I feel like he's sort of embraced the 49ers side of it.
Well, I mean, he went to Stanford and stuff, so he probably had a fandom in the Niners before ever entering the NFL.
Beats and Meats says, can we work some trades to get the entire 5th round? 32 5th round picks. That's where our scouts shine.
I mean, this isn't Madden. That's the type of thing. So, like, completely not realistic, but in Madden, I do this. I trade down many times in the early years of the Madden franchise, and I get to the point where, all right, now I have like 5 first-round picks every single year because one of those will inevitably be like the second pick, and I'll trade down from that to get multiple picks in the following years again, and so then I end up just having this continual slog of first-round picks. I feel like a team could do that if they were willing to. It's just you have to be unable to be fired for a couple of years to be able to set it up to where you have that draft cash to build off of. You have to have a couple of years of not really bringing people in.
There was one year in the draft, I can't remember which year it was, with Bill Walsh with the 49ers, where he kept trading down. And like they're watching players come off the board. And eventually somebody, I can't remember who it was, turned to Bill Walsh and was like, Bill, if you don't make a pick, we're going to have every choice in the last round. Like, stop trading down and choose somebody. That's why, again, like more picks. Yes, I get it. But it seems like whenever anybody trades down, they get universally praised. The Patriots, oh my God, the Patriots are so good. Look, they traded down for more picks. Go look at the Patriots drafts. Most of them have been terrible. So you shouldn't universally praise anybody for any move in the draft.
I mean, yes and no. You got to react in the moment. It's the nature of the business. It doesn't make good TV or podcasting if you go, oh, I'm not going to say anything. I'm going to wait 5 years to weigh in.
But trust me, it doesn't take 5 years. This isn't baseball. It takes a lot. 5 years. Trey Lance didn't even get 5 starts, let alone 5 years. Your decisions get made a lot quicker than that.
Okay, 3 years. You happy now? They're still in their rookie contract.
Bill Parcells used to say, like, first year, you're a rookie, whatever. Second year, you better show me something. Third year, you're gone. That was sort of his philosophy.
I saw, speaking of like, third year rookie contracts, I did see with the NFL wanting to like add the 18th game. I saw a headline where it said the NFLPA should take a hardline stance right away. And if the NFL brings the 18th game up, they say we will never, ever agree to it unless you drop rookie contracts to 3 years with a 4th year option.
I don't know if they're going to.
Boy, that shit. Like, when you think about that, the more you think about it, the more you realize how much that would dramatically reshape the entire league. Because if you have these really good players hitting free agency that much sooner, like that changes the entire scope of everything.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that CBA, when they established the rookie wage scale, changed roster construction on a massive scale, because you have the rookie wage scale now. Your first round picks, they don't crush you like they did before. Right. If the 49ers had drafted Trey Lance, before they changed that rule, that would have been crippling for them. Yeah. Because not only would you have given up the 3 first-round picks, but you would have given him a massive, massive contract. Like, what was it? I want to say Sam Bradford was the last guy. I think he got like $40 million guaranteed before ever playing a single snap in the NFL. And that was years ago when $40 million was like a massive amount of money.
Yeah, it used to be like if you were a top 10 drafted quarterback, you were making as much, if not more, than the best quarterbacks in the league.
Yep.
And it was the veterans that changed that. The veterans came and said, no, we're taking money from the rookies so that the vets get paid more.
Sorry. I just saw this. So apparently Jeff Duncan, who covers the Saints, tweeted that Michael Thomas was going to get released. And Michael Thomas apparently was not happy about that. Here's Michael Thomas's response. Quote, Jeff Duncan is a hoe, trying to stay relevant, so let's speak on it. The Saints leak information to him to try to ruin players' value, but see, I'm not broke, so I can speak on it. He is broke, so he needs clicks. Go look at all his articles that never end up being true. Michael Thomas, not happy that Jeff Duncan is doing his job.
Yeah. I mean, well, the Saints aren't happy that Michael Thomas doesn't do his job.
So. Oh, well done. Man, talk about a guy who was like...
Talk about the next Dez Bryant.
On a
guy that speaks out so much that nobody's going to touch him. His career will end prematurely 2 to 3 years early because the guy doesn't have any qualms about criticizing his bosses publicly.
He comes into the league in 2016 with Breeze. 92 catches, 1,100 yards, 9 touchdowns. The next year, 1,200 yards. The next year, 1,400 yards. The next year, 1,700 yards. Like, for a first 4 years in the league, he was absolutely unstoppable, and he has not had 1,000 yards since.
Yeah, because he was incredibly injury prone, and his weakness was always speed. So once he had all these injuries for, I think it was 3 years in a row, he doesn't have the speed to separate anymore.
That is wild, man. I didn't realize. I knew he was good. I didn't know he
He
was
set
that
the
good.
reception record.
Led
That's
the
why he
league
got the
in
contract he got.
125 catches in 2018, led the league, 149 catches in 2019. He had 185 targets that year. Brandon Ayuk is looking at that and he's crying.
I was going to say 149 catches. That's probably what Debo's the last 3 years combined.
Well, now you're going to make me look it up. Let's see. Debo Samuel has 283 in his career. So his last 3 years, he has 193. So a little more than that.
Really? It's 193.
Yeah.
I'm surprised that he's
56,
averaged
and 60. Now you're trying to do the math in your head.
Yeah, you were off by 10. It's 186, but
no, I'm not. Pro Football Reference is off. Don't blame me.
You said 50, 60, and 77?
56, 60, and 77.
Okay. I missed
Corey
the
Soto.
56.
Yeah. So you were wrong, is what you meant to say.
Yes.
I was wrong.
I have bad
Corey
ears.
Soto says, hypothetical, if Kyle was unexpectedly fired, do you think the next head coach would extend Purdy or draft his own guy? I know all this depends, but what do you think? Kyle is not going to be unexpectedly fired.
They would have a year to decide that. That's what I think.
Right. And also,
they would come in with an open mind for either direction.
Generally, coaches like to pick their own guy. Is usually what happens. I mean, look at what happened with Denver, right? Sean Payton came in with Russell Wilson and then got rid. He never wanted Russell Wilson, hated Russell Wilson, and now they took an $80+ million cap hit. Not only is that the record, that's more than the previous 2 records combined. That's how bad they wanted to get out of that Russell Wilson deal.
Yeah, I mean, we could do a whole show on Denver and Sean Payton and how terrible that's going to go for him. I mean, Sean Payton's ego is unmatched. Put it that way. Sean Payton has a bigger ego than Jerry Jones.
Sean Payton without Drew Brees, not looking like a Hall of Fame coach. Anyway, I know this is not 49er stuff, but I just wanted to throw that in there. So there is nobody on the list of free agents that I went through where you were like, yep, bring that guy back. Everything was bring him back, but only for this amount of money. There's no, and I guess that's a good thing. There's 19 unrestricted free agents. Nobody you'd be heartbroken if they left.
Nope. None. Like, they are all replaceable. Some of them are harder to replace than others. Some of them I like their upside, but I'm not paying money guaranteed for upside. No, that's what you do with the draft. If you want upside, you go draft a guy. You don't pay a free agent for upside.
And I don't know what the Niners are going to do, but they've been very good at identifying guys not to bring back. I know that sounds weird, but like they don't overpay for guys that they should let walk. And I think they kind of err on the side of caution of, well, if it's close and maybe we should bring it. Nope, we're not going to do it. We are going to pay for the guys that definitely should be back. We're going to pay Warner. We're going to pay Bosa. We're going to pay Kittle. We're going to pay Debo. We're not going to pay Mike McGlinchey.
So before we go, do you see them trading a big name, getting out of any of these big contracts?
I would have said no, but that article that Mike Silver wrote a couple of weeks ago makes me think that it's possible. So I'll say yes.
I was like, okay, how can they create enough money? And it's all right. You give Ayuk a new deal. You could probably save $7 million off of what his cap hit was going to be on the 5th-year option. You give Charvarius Ward a new deal. You could probably save around the same amount for him. Now you're looking at $14 million saved. Now you look at doing the BS restructure type thing to free up money with one of your top players. You do that with, you can pick any of them. Turn their salary into a signing bonus to basically kick the can down the road. You're looking at being able to create, $22-23 million of cap space doing just those 3 things, and all 3 of those are logical. 22 to 23 million is enough cap space to basically bring everybody back, bring in some bargain free agents to replace the guys that are leaving, and then use all your draft picks to try to finally win the big one. So I don't know. The longer we sit, the more I think that's what they're going to do. There's not going to be a big name that gets moved. I wish there was.
Yeah. Honestly, like I said, literally any day you wake up, anything can happen with this 49ers team. They could trade a big guy. They could re-sign one of their guys, a restructure. They could make a big free agent splash. Just keep your phones near you. That's all I'm going to say, because it's going to be crazy. And free agency begins on Monday. The legal tampering period starts on Monday, and you know how it's going to go, because it goes the same way every year. Deals are going to be announced on Monday.
Midnight, 9 seconds in.
Right. They're already
somehow there's a contract already been negotiated.
Yep.
I'll just say this, a good way to go into the offseason. Thank fucking God we do not have to deal with a quarterback question mark this offseason. We're talking about the backup, and I don't give two craps about who the backup is, honestly. As long as they don't spend money for a backup, I don't care.
I think John Lynch probably feels the same way about it as you do. I mean, he seemed relieved at the combine, talking about, like, oh, we don't have a quarterback controversy this year. And I'll be interested to see, Levin, do you think Brock is going to, like, hold court in the offseason and organize workouts with Kittle? And, I mean, Kittle has talked about how he's never been able to, work out in an offseason with a quarterback because they always had a quarterback controversy. Well, do you think Brock's healthy?
No. They always had a starting quarterback who ghosted everybody in the offseason. Kittle's not wanting to say the truth there. I can't work out with my quarterback because my quarterback sits in Illinois and turns his phone off for the entire offseason.
You have to go to his house if you want to get a hold of him. Do you think that Brock will do that? Organize something with people?
Yeah. Brock is one of those lifer quarterbacks. Like, he has no life outside of quarterback. Quarterback is who he is.
No, he's getting married.
Yeah, cool. It's going to be, all right, we're going to Cabo for our honeymoon.
He's not invited to Cabo. I don't think he gets in on that list. But I hope he does. It seemed like he would be the kind of person to do that. I would love to see him with Ayuk and him with Kittle and Debo. I don't know if he'll be able to get Debo there, but that would be great if he did. But we'll see. We will be here with you for all of it. As always, we're live every single weekday for you. We're not going anywhere in the off season. We're not taking time off. I know Good Morning Football is like shutting down the lights for a while. Guess what? We're not going anywhere. We will be here with you. So if you're just trying us out, please like and subscribe to the channel. I promise you, we will earn your time.
I mean, if you want to pay me millions of dollars to move to LA, I'll shut things down for a month.
Let me just tell you, there's not a lot of money. You'd have to give me a lot of money to move to LA to do a morning
millions.
show. Yeah. A morning show. That's going to be rough. Anyway, enjoy the rest of your Thursday, everybody. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. We'll talk soon.